The Trailer Talks is sponsored by Imaging DNA, Ideas, Images, Insight. The core of the conversation is the image at imagingdna.com. Ever wonder what it takes to live a life creatively? So do we. That's why we're here, to find out what clever people do to succeed in the arts, education, and business. I'm Cecily Korst, and this is the Trailer Talks. We're interviewing artists and educators, musicians and actors, at home and on the road. So come on, it's going to be a good trip. Hey, welcome to the trailer. Come on in. Today, we're Skyping with Katherine Lorenz and Kate Seely.
I'm Katherine Lorenz.
And I am Kate Seely.
They run Puente Mexico.
I call myself a social change maker.
I tend to call myself a philanthropist, but I guess change maker definitely works.
Puente Mexico is a .org looking to change the lives of people from Oaxaca. Let's hear about their creative lives.
Amaranth is an amazing plant. You can eat the seed and the leaf, and it is native to Mesoamerica and was outlawed with the Spanish conquest. Therefore, we feel like it is a culturally applicable approach to the problems that we see in the Oaxacan countryside.
When Puente started, we were really focused on the nutritional elements of amaranth as a way to improve health, particularly focused on children who are malnourished or at risk for malnutrition. And as we grew in our work and evolved, we realized that because these are subsistence farming families, we also needed to address the farming and the cultivation of amaranth as well. So now Puente addresses both the nutritional needs of the communities and some of the economic opportunities that amaranth can provide some of these rural communities.
Tell me about your company.
We are a nonprofit that was founded, that Katherine and I co-founded 10 years ago. And we do work with amaranth, which is a grain that's native to Oaxaca and the rest of Mesoamerica. And it's a really culturally sensitive and culturally appropriate method of combating malnutrition and increasing economic opportunity.
We really take a whole community approach. So we're looking at some of the many issues that the rural communities in southern Mexico face. And it's hard to believe if you look at a map, it's a 2-hour flight from Houston, but it's like going back in time. These are communities that are speaking indigenous languages. They, sometimes up to half of the children are suffering from chronic malnutrition. They don't have access to some of the basic things that you think that they would, given how close they are in the economy of Mexico as a whole. Oaxaca is like a different world. And so we're looking at one way to help move these communities forward, which we see in amaranth.
How did you guys get started on this?
Well, Katherine and I actually met in Oaxaca in the summer of 2002, and I was working on a similar project. We were responding to the Secretary of Health's request for a better understanding of the impact of neural tube birth defects and folic acids. Not surprisingly, what we found was that the knowledge was pretty low, and so they asked us to, with presenting those results to them, to come back and start an educational program around folic acid. So we didn't want to be, spreading the consumption of vitamins, but rather really wanted to look at something that could approach these challenges in a different way, and then found amaranth. And that's about when Katherine and I met that summer in Oaxaca. And Katherine was working with the volunteer program Amigos de las Americas, which sends mostly high school and some college-aged kids down to different countries in Latin America for cultural exchange and public health educational programs for the summer. And we both wanted to come back to Oaxaca and do more work similarly, and I convinced Katherine to come back to Oaxaca. She actually was thinking about going to Africa, and we luckily, stayed in touch and really developed this idea of turning this into an organization. So Our partnership started really pretty early on and has been a blessing, I think, for both of us.
Tell me a little bit about the program itself.
So we look at that. We have two different programs. One we call Healthy Families, and one we call Eco Amaranth. The Healthy Family really focuses on the family and the health element, the nutrition element, cooking with amaranth, integrating it into the diet. Family gardens, where you're really just having a little patio garden, as they call it, where you'll pick a little bit of amaranth and put it into your food, and it's really focused on the consumption side in the family, focusing on children who are malnourished or at risk for malnutrition, really focusing on the neediest group. The Eco Amaranth program focuses a lot more on larger scale amaranth production and the supply chain. So we're looking at growing amaranth not just for family consumption, but in order to have an excess that they can then sell, and then up the supply chain. So who do they sell it to? Making sure there's a market, helping with the processing, local technologies to process, but also local technologies to harvest and thresh and all the things that need to happen in the fields, helping them create this supply chain from the growth to the sale and adding as much value in the local communities as possible.
What's the hardest part about what you guys do?
I think fundraising is the hardest, and when an organization like Puente really focuses on the long term, changing someone's nutritional choices, changing someone's diet, changing what farmers grow, is a slow process, and you really have to be in it for the long term, and some of the impacts are very long term, and so finding funders that are willing to take a risk with you and support you until you find and are able to show that your investment really shows a return, I think that's the hardest part.
You've told me some success stories, but personally, what keeps you two going on this?
Katherine and I, when we are in person together and kind of take a moment to step back and look at where we were 10 years ago and where we've come to, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Neither one of us ever imagined that it would be at this point where we have, over 10 staff, regional offices, community promoters in each of the regions. I mean, it is just, it's stuff that we talked about 6 years ago, oh wow, how amazing would it be to have a little processing center in the Mije region, and oh yeah, but we're not there yet, and it's happening now, and it, as Katherine said, it does take time, but hearing people, and especially community members who are positively impacted by the programs, and you can tell that there's a sense of gratitude from them for what we're trying to do with them. I mean, that just can't be beat. It's like, it brings tears to my eyes every time it happens.
I think part of why I try to get back and visit as much as I can, and every time I'm in Oaxaca, try to go out to a village and see some of the program beneficiaries personally, is because it just fills your gas tank up with gasoline. It makes you say, this is a fight worth fighting. This is worth doing. These are the people we're doing it for. I think, to me, the stories of mothers saying, my child was malnourished and now he's not, or now she's not, is probably what really drives me the most. Because while yes, it's nice to make an extra buck, and that actually is what ends up driving people to eat amaranth, the difference in a child who's malnourished and who's not, and what that child can accomplish throughout his or her lifetime, is massive. And so being able to kind of break that chain of poverty as much as possible at that entry point, to me, is really, really exciting.
What was last year's Pinch Me moment for you?
I definitely think the collaboration with the Ford Foundation has been really, really interesting. Partially because Ford Foundation is just known as being one of the top foundations in the world. So when they support you and say, we want to work with you, we want to partner with you, that's an indication that, hey, we're on to something. But more importantly, they really are partners. They're pushing us to do new things, to really push the boundary. They're pushing us to open up into new regions and to think about the supply chain in a different way. So it's more than their funding, it's their partnership and their kind of leadership and working with them that's opening up our eyes to new ways to address the same issues.
Who have been your biggest supporters throughout this process?
I mean, I feel like my close friends and family
Yeah.
have been so incredibly supportive. More than anything in the emotional realm, it's when you start something like this, Kate and I both literally, it was our lives for the first, for most of our 20s, I would say Puente was our life. And so while it's the most fulfilling, gratifying thing you could ever do, it is exhausting. And sometimes you need your friends and family to prop you up and say, you can keep fighting, you can do it. The people need it. And so that to me, I think has been, I couldn't be here without my close friends and family, and Kate, of course, my undying partner in every element. I mean, I think that we were just a great team, and without one another, I don't think we could have done it. Certainly don't think either of us could have done it alone.
No way. Yeah, I would say Katherine is the person I couldn't have done it without. I mean, I just feel so grateful every day.
This has taken a lot of creative thought on your parts. Where does that come from? What's the inspiration?
I've actually been thinking a lot about that recently. And I think what it's coming to for me is consistently cultivating hope and inspiration, and really big hope and big inspiration and big dreams. Like, what is it that you're really trying to affect, right? And sometimes that's the little, the story of the mother and the child, and sometimes that's having a Puente program in India. So staying focused and having mechanisms, personal mechanisms to cultivate that kind of dreaming is what I've been landing on lately.
Yeah, it's funny when you say that, because I always think of myself as one of the least creative people I know. And so to think of myself as being creative in this, it just kind of doesn't quite click. But the way I think about my life, I often feel like I wake up every morning and think, how can I have the most impact?
What's the one piece of advice that you have for people who are going down a creative life or an entrepreneurial life or a life of service like you guys have?
I mean, what I think, which has been, Kate and I've touched on a little, is that I think we were wonderful and are wonderful partners and great complements to one another. I think our strengths complement one another, our weaknesses complement one another. So whatever your strength is, find the right partnership to multiply that strength to have the most impact possible.
How can people get involved with you guys if they want to?
Well, first of all, it's our 10th anniversary, so we're having a series of events to celebrate Puente and to talk about its work and to really bring Puente's work to the U.S. and to other communities that are supporting us. So there are a number of events in San Francisco, in New York, in Austin, in Oaxaca, that people are welcome to come to, and information about those will be on the website, www.puentemexico.org.
If people want to become supporters of Puente, there are many ways to do that, and financially is definitely one. And we would love to welcome you all in all the different ways we just mentioned into the larger Puente family.
Over the past 10 years, Puente has touched the lives of over 6,000 families in rural Oaxaca, giving them access to improved nutrition and economic opportunities.
We'd love to invite all of you, our community members, our family members of Puente, to join us as we celebrate our 10th year by donating, by volunteering your time, by getting in touch to learn more, and by spreading the word to your family and friends all around the world. May everyone join the Puente family.
Awesome. Well, you two, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I hope we can spread the word about you guys and about Amaranth, because it sounds amazing.
Well, thank you, Cecily. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for your interest and for taking the time to ask the questions. It's not just us; it's people being interested. So we appreciate that.
I'm Cecily Korst. Join us for the next road trip. It's a sound studio. It's not finished. We need to work strategically around the guys mowing the lawn next door. We got it. We got it.